In this video, I'll be going over how to compare decimals. There are two methods when it comes to comparing decimals. One method is by comparing by fractions, while the second method is comparing by value. We will use both methods for the two examples below. For the first example, we have 8.86 and 8.75. So first, we're going to put 8.86, and then we're going to place a box in between, and then we're going to put either greater than or less than after we find out which one's bigger. For the first method, where we're comparing by fractions, the first decimal is 8.86. So we have the number 8. That's the whole number. Second 8 on the 10th value, that's equivalent to 8 over 10. And the 6 in the 100th value is 6 over 100. And what we will do is we're going to find the common denominator. In this case, we have 110. So 100 being the biggest, we're going to use 100 as the denominator. So we're going to place 100 as the denominator. 8 times 100 is 800. And so if we have 800 over 100, in this case, that will become 8. So that's how we get 800 in the numerator. Now for the 8 over 10, since we are multiplying the 10 by 10 to get to 100, we need to do the same in the numerator. And that makes 8 times 10. So 8 times 10 is 80. Therefore, we would add 80. And lastly, we have 6 over 100. So since the denominator is already 100, so the 6 remains the same. It would just be 6 over 100. And after we add them together, we will have 886 over 100. That's an improper fraction. Now we're going to do the same for the 8.75. And that would be 8 plus, this will be 7 over 10 for the 10th value. And then we have 5, which is 5 over 100. And now we're going to go ahead and change that with the same denominator here, 100. So for the whole number of 8, we need to multiply by 100, just like before, and that becomes 800. For the second fraction, the denominator of 10 need to multiply by 10 to get to 100. And so we need to do the same in the numerator. So 7 times 10 is 70. So we plus by 70. And lastly, we have the denominator 100 and 5 as numerator. So we would just add 5. 5 over 100 remain the same. So we add up together. So after adding up together, we have 875 over 100. Now that we have the improper fraction set up for both fractions, and we see that the denominators are the same of 100, so we can compare the value of 886 and 875 and come to the conclusion that 886 is greater than 875. And so in this case, we will put greater than as the answer for the first one. Now let's try the second method, which is the value method. It is my preferred method as it's easier and requires less work. All you have to do is compare value by value based on the placement of the number. So if we look at the first example, we will have 8. Since they are exactly the same, we move on to the next number down, which is the 10th value of 8 here, and we compare that with the 10th value of the second number, which is 7. And if we compare these two, we can see that 8 is greater than 7. And just by that, we will know the first number is greater than the second number. So we will simply just put 886 greater than 8.75. As you can see, the second method is much faster and easier. But in some of the assignments or tests given to you, may ask you to compare decimal by fractions and making sure that you know both methods so that you can compare them accordingly. And for the second example, 263.415 and 263.402, we'll also compare them by both fraction method and value method. For the fraction method, we have 263.415. So what we're going to do is we're going to separate them like so. 263 plus 4 over 10 for the 10th value. 1 would be 1 over 100 plus 5 over 1000's value. Okay, now 1000 being the biggest, we're going to go ahead and convert all of the fractions and whole numbers to improper fraction with the denominator of 1000. So 263 will need to multiply by 1000. So it will become 263,000. For the second one of 4 over 10, we need to multiply that by 100 to get to 1000. And doing the same in the numerator, 4 times 100 makes it 400 in the numerator. And for the third fraction of 100, need to multiply by 10. And doing the same in the numerator, that gives us 10 on top. And for the last fraction, it's already at 1000 as the denominator, so we will leave 5 as it is. And after adding up all the numbers, we will have 263,415 over 1000. So that would be equivalent to the first number. As you can see from the first number, with the 1000 denominator, all you're really doing is moving 3 decimal points back. And that becomes 263,415 over 1000. So we can do the same with the second number, where we just move 3 decimal points, and that will become 263,402 over 1000. And after we compare the two numbers, we can see that the first number is greater. So the answer would be greater than. Now let's try the second method with value. So by comparing two numbers, 2 is in the hundreds position. Each of the number is 200. So they're the same. So we move on to the second number in the tens value, and both are 6. Since they're the same, we move on to the next number, which is the ones value, and 3 and 3. Again, they're the same, so we're going to move on to the next number, and that's in the 10th value of 4. And they're still the same, so we're moving on to the next one, which is the 100th value. And that one, the first one is 1, and the second one is 0, and 1 is greater than 0. And from this, we could write 260.415 is greater than 263.402. So as you can see, both methods will result with the same answer. But the value method is a lot easier and faster. If you are not being asked to do it by fraction method, I would strongly suggest that you go by the value method. So these are two examples of how you would compare decimals. We also have videos on how to write decimals in word form, as well as how to round decimals. Both videos are just as important for understanding of decimals. And I would recommend going over these after you've mastered how to compare decimals. Hopefully this video is helpful to you, and thank you for watching.